Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. I hope this sounds okay. We just moved houses and the room is empty, so it's very echoey. And while I search for all my projects in progress through my boxes, I thought I would show you a little something I did for PonyCon. Because one of my favorite series here in the channel, and luckily something that I have read a few comments about, is this combination between My Little Pony and archaeology. Something that puts together two of my interests. I love ponies and I am an anthropologist, or I studied anthropology at least. I don't know what I am now. And to be honest, I had so many ideas for this potential pony custom that it became one of those things that you postponed eternally. So I decided to instead use one of my favorite new toys I have, the X2 laser engraver, and prepare some materials that I could actually take with me to my first PonyCon and share with others in the shape of coasters and, I don't know, wooden discs. This will make more sense once we start with the video. So let me show you what I made and how I made it. Okay, so let me walk you through my process. On the one hand, we need some Aztec art, and on the other, I want to use Generation 1 ponies as usual, my favorites. So let's bring those two sources first into Illustrator and start thinking how we're going to do this. Oh, and I also dropped the Aztec calendar, although then I ended up using a Wikipedia version, which is free. And I was a little too confident. I thought I could free draw these, but eventually I decided to actually trace this little clip art, Aztec clip art, and change it so it looks a bit more like a G1. And I guess the result is something in between. So these are the heads I'm going to use for around the Aztec calendar. It's not going to be the main figure. We'll work on that soon. But I thought I will show you a little bit of how I planned this. There was lots of back and forth, so I'm not sure what to show you in this edit, but hopefully this gives you a quick idea of the process in case you want to do something like this. And here is basically what I started working on and some of the changes I eventually made. This doesn't look like the final result, but again, just showing you the process, and let's see what it actually looks like in the end, because I have about 3 hours of footage, so you don't need to see that. This is what it looks like. That will be the basic version of this body. Then we're going to create more. So at this point I was actually not sure if I was going to use the calendar or not, so I looked at some different sources of Aztec art, but I settled on the calendar in part because this is a free resource you can download if you want to try something similar yourself, and it's available on Wikipedia at a very high resolution. With this file in Photoshop, what I wanted to do next was get rid of some of these existing elements. These are all real elements in the calendar. I'm going to tell you more about this very soon, but I decided to remove some of these things so I can make space for my ponies. Of course, as soon as I saw this, I realized this is not going to work. These are way too simple, but let's bring all of them first, and then we will go into the improvement phase. To be completely honest, it would have been so much more interesting if each of these could be different too, but I was under a lot of pressure to get things ready for PonyCon. So, since the pony custom we're going to do in the future will be something different, let's talk a little bit about this artifact. So one of the first things you might notice is this little circle of 20 figures, which are 20 ponies in this case, but will be 20 different things. The Aztec calendar, which was based on the Mayan calendar, had two cycles. One was the ritual cycle and the other one was the civil cycle. In terms of the sacred or the ritual stuff, each of these 20 figures was a deity, and in terms of the civil one, the year was divided into 18 months, and each month had 20 days. Sorry, this is a lot of numbers. If I was listening to this, I wouldn't retain any of this information. The important thing is that as you cycled through all of these ritual and civil cycles, you will get to the same initial point after 52 years. And this was a really important celebration. It was the binding up of the years, or the new fire ceremony. I'm not sure how much detail I can go into this part because of YouTube, but basically all the fires in the city will be allowed to burn out, and then a priest will ignite a new sacred fire on top of a sacrificial victim, and then the people will be allowed to start the fire again and feast. Now, I think this is quite an interesting cycle. This is very unique to the Aztecs because 52 years, just think what 52 years means. You might see one of these events. If you're very lucky, you might see 2 in your lifetime, but we are never going to see 3. But at the same time, this is not something you want to see because during this time, the Aztecs actually believed that the sun might not come back. So if there is a possibility that this might happen, I mean, you would do anything. People would actually cut parts of their bodies and throw them in the fire, so the new cycle could begin. And the preparations were also brutal. You weren't allowed to work. You have to destroy things in your house. You have to be silent. And I don't know if you remember, but in the years coming to 2012, there was this whole movement. A new period would begin, and the inhabitants of the earth would go through a huge physical, spiritual transformation. Well, this is actually also based on the Mesoamerican calendars, just on a longer set of cycles that counts from the time the world was created, mythically created. So let's go back to the calendar design. We now have our 4 main ponies. In the original Aztec calendar, these 4 figures represented the 4 previous incarnations of the Aztec sun god, which is also the central figure in the design, so we're going to do that next, and then we will start lasering stuff. Whew, okay, I hope you're still here with me. Thank you if you are. We're going to design the central figure. We're not going to use actual historical sources for the god. We're just going to do a generic Aztec pony design. I am going to be using this inspiration for the pose and some of the accessories. This is from a beautiful print from Mi Corazón Mexica on Etsy, and it represents, let me see, Tonatiuh, the sun. So let's finish this design. Let's bring the central figure to the calendar design in Photoshop, clean it up, and I will see you for the engraving part. Leave you with some music now. See you soon. Alright, so the design is done, now it's time to laser engrave our things. For this project I'm using the official program that came with the Xtool F1, and the way this works is quite easy. We're going to bring the design and tell the machine to engrave this design. I'm going to first do the plywood discs, I don't know what to call it, coasters I guess, and then this circle around is going to be the cut order. Here's the preview, and let's go to the machine. Really easy to set up. First we're going to put the base underneath because we're going to cut and we don't want to keep marking my beautiful Xtool. Like I said, we're going to start with the plywood. This is a 3mm plywood sheet, and we're going to do 4 passes of the engraving and 1 for the cutting. I tried a few different settings and I figured out that 4 passes, which is about 25 minutes, was the best result. And here is our coaster. Ready. Each disc is a little different because of the grain in the plywood, but yeah, this is the first one I did. And while at it, I also found this photographic paper, so I gave that a try as well, but I didn't center it right, so I'm not going to show you that. It's for future projects. Alright, so once we had the proof of concept that were the discs, because they are coasters but you can't really get them wet, you know, it kind of defeats the purpose of a coaster. So instead I decided to do some keychains to take with me. But keychains are not supposed to be that massive, so I reduced the design to make it into a smaller circle. And since we're here, I will just mention that if you do want to buy one of these, you can do so on my Etsy shop. I will make them on demand because they do take a little while and I have to make sure I have all the materials. But I will have a few different options available, so everything will go towards helping the channel grow. I am planning on making a few improvements. I want to get new LED lamps because the ones I have are very old and very huge. And I have been thinking about maybe starting a podcast about archaeology, so if you are interested in that and you hear this, please let me know if you will be one of the, I don't know, 4 or 5 subscribers. I really don't like self-advertising, but I do promise that everything I make from like the videos and the stuff that comes from the videos is put back towards the channel. In any case, here is the keychain and we have one more project to do, my favorite one. The last thing I want to do is actually the first thing that came to mind when I started thinking about this Aztec pony. And it is a slate coaster that is actually reminiscent of the original Aztec sandstone, or what we think of when we think of the Aztec calendar, which is actually a sculpture that is in the National Anthropology Museum in Mexico City. And this artifact is actually one of the main reasons why I decided very early on in my life to study anthropology and archaeology, because I saw a replica in my local museum. But that is a story for another day, maybe. Let's look at the results of this little project expedition and see what we ended up with. First we have the little discs, and the little discs are going to be turned into keychains, so let's build those, pack everything, add some stickers, and get ready to share these with the PonyCon attendees. By the way, I have created a second channel. It's called RetroGeek... It's called RetroGeek Lite. Lite, and it's going to be the home of anything that is not specifically pony restorations. So there will be other crafting projects, there will be maybe some Monster High doll customizations, some cosplaying perhaps. And it would really help if you follow this one and you like that sort of thing, if you can take a look at the other one. There's just so much I want to share with you, but you know how YouTube works and the algorithm. Anyway, back to the keychains and discs and coasters. I will jump ahead and say that I took this with me and John to PonyCon. I only had a few examples of each, and I think we sold almost all of them, so that was really nice. I also traded a couple, and they were quite nice conversation starters. So now we know for the next PonyCon how to display them better. The stand was... we didn't know what we were doing. It was the first time we attended an event like this. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little process, and I will see you very soon for the next video. There are lots of things coming. I am sorting things out with the house. So thank you for watching. Thank you, patrons, for supporting my work, and I hope you have a great week. I will see you very soon. Bye bye.